I never thought a normal family dinner would be the milestone that ended everything. But like all major turning points in life, it began with a seemingly harmless moment. We were sitting around the dining table in my in-laws' old house. Me, Emily, my wife, her older sister Melissa, Melissa's husband Derek, my mother-in-law Violet, and the youngest sister Lila. The smell of pot roast filled the room. The clinking of silverware mingled with casual conversations about the weather, work, and local news. It was like a scene from a warm family movie. Until Melissa spoke. She clapped her hands on the table, her eyes sparkling as if she were about to announce some great news. "We're all going on a trip together, a week at Myrtle Beach. Luxury resort, private pools, all-inclusive meal plan." Everyone clapped, cheered and rejoiced, as if the vacation had been paid for since the dawn of time. I offered a polite smile, thinking they were just daydreaming, but then Melissa turned to me, her sharp gaze hidden behind a forced smile. "So Ryan, when will you transfer the money? The deposit is due next week." I almost choked on my water. "What money?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "For the vacation, of course." She laughed, her tone like she was talking to a slow-witted child. "Only $2,800 per couple with your business. That's nothing, right?" I turned to look at Emily. She had her head bowed, staring at her plate silent. Every eye in the room was on me, as if I had just been appointed the official sponsor, without anyone bothering to ask. I put down my knife and fork, straightened my back, my voice firmer. "I never agreed to this vacation, and I will not pay a single cent for this trip." The atmosphere in the room instantly turned icy. Melissa glared at me, as if I had just insulted 8 generations of her ancestors. "You can't do that. I already promised the kids. You can't disappoint the family." Then she turned to Emily, almost ordering her, "Tell your husband he's making everything a mess." Emily just mumbled, Can't we discuss this later?" Violet, my mother-in-law, chimed in, a strained smile stretching across her cheeks. "Ryan, honey, the whole family needs this trip. Everyone has been so stressed lately. You know, family is important." I clenched my fists under the table. For 6 years I had turned a blind eye to the times they borrowed a few $100s, the urgent loans that disappeared without repayment, all to keep the peace. But not tonight. I sat up straight, my gaze not avoiding anyone. "No, I am not a bank. I am not the family ATM." I paused, letting each word sink into the heavy air. "I have been silent for too long, but to make things clear, Melissa, you owe me over $22,000 from the family help over the past 6 years. Not a single dollar has been returned." The silence that followed my words was heavier than a scream. Melissa shot up her chair, crashing backward. She shrieked, "You're so petty. Who calculates family matters like that? A real man knows how to sacrifice without demanding." Derek, her husband, remained hunched over his plate, as if hoping the floor would swallow him whole. I took out my phone, opened the Notes app. My voice rang out steadily. March 2022, 3,000, said it was for Derek's car repair. December 2022, $5,000, said it was for house repairs. But immediately after, they bought a new jacuzzi. May 23, $2,200, Lila's tuition fees. "And there's more," Melissa screamed. "That's different. Family is supposed to support each other. What kind of man are you, keeping track of every penny?" I stood up, my chair scraping against the wall. The kind of man who is tired of being the fool in this game of exploitation. I looked straight into her eyes, into Violet's eyes, into the eyes of all those who had silently watched me being drained. "You have 90 days to return that money. If not, I will take this to civil court. I have saved all the messages, bills, and transfer confirmations." Emily whispered, trembling, "Ryan, please." But I just nodded. "Let's go." The drive home was silent. Streetlights flashed past the car windows like blurred streaks of light. Emily sat huddled in the passenger seat, twisting the hem of her shirt in her hands. "My family, they're going to make things so bad," she whispered. I stared straight at the dark road ahead. "They've already done all the bad things," I replied, my voice low and firm as stone. "But this time, I won't let them win." My phone vibrated incessantly. Messages piled up, missed calls accumulated. But it was all too late. I had been patient for 6 years, had given them chance after chance. Now it was my turn, and I would not back down. The next morning, I woke up to 13 unread messages and 3 missed calls, all from my wife's family, all with the same content. Blame, crying, threats, pleading. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I understood one thing at this moment. Silence was sharper than any words. Emily quietly made coffee in the kitchen. She said nothing about the previous night. She simply placed a cup in front of me and sat down, holding her mug, her eyes troubled and heavy. "I didn't know things were this bad," she said softly, as if afraid to break the fragile atmosphere around us. I looked at her for a long moment. The woman I loved, the one I had believed would be an inseparable ally in any battle, and I saw genuine torment in her eyes. "You are not responsible for their choices," I replied, my voice softening, "but you have to make your own choice." She nodded, her eyes welling up, and then her phone vibrated. A new message from Melissa. I saw Emily's face freeze as she read it. No more tears, no more confusion, only anger. That afternoon, while I was repairing a section of the fence in the backyard, Emily came out, phone in hand. "There's something you need to see," she said. She opened a group chat, a group I had never been added to, a family group chat created right after last night. I skimmed through it. Melissa was ranting about me being controlling about me, keeping all the money, about Emily not being able to buy a cup of coffee without asking permission. The lies poured out like a broken dam. Along with it was a link to an article about financial abuse in marriage, with bullet points accusing an invisible abuser, and Melissa was implying me in every sentence. I gave a wry smile. Their way of twisting things was truly remarkable, but Emily wasn't smiling. She was angry. She scrolled down, a series of comments from relatives. I always felt something was off. "Emily, you need to save yourself. Family comes first. Don't let him tear you apart." Line after line like knives, stabbing at the remaining shreds of trust. Emily took a deep breath. Then, without hesitation, she opened her banking app, clicked on the transaction. History, Starbucks coffee, Target orders, Amazon purchases, all under Emily's name, all automatically deducted from her own account, the account I had never touched. She took screenshots, sent them straight to the group chat. Not a single explanation, not a single defense, just letting the truth speak for itself. The reaction in the group chat was almost immediate. "He's making you do this. Don't let him manipulate you, honey." I leaned back in my chair looking at Emily. "We are not silent," I said. She nodded. "We fight." That night, Violet, my mother-in-law, organized a family meeting at her house. She texted Emily, "You must be there. The family needs to talk face to face." Emily hesitated, but I didn't. "We'll go," I said, "to end everything. Not letting anyone retell the story their way, not letting anyone twist the truth into a weapon against us anymore." We arrived, and this time, I was ready. The living room was suffocating like a prison. Derek had his head bowed. Lila was biting her nails incessantly. Violet stood in the middle of the room, her hands clasped together as if conducting a sacrificial ritual. Melissa lunged at me as soon as the door closed. "Finally decided to show up," she hissed. "Now, what do you have to say about how you've been treating your wife's family?" I smiled, not coldly, not contemptuously, just calmly, like someone who knew they held all the cards. "Actually, I do." I took out my phone. The list of loans, dates, and amounts was already open. "We'll talk about treatment," I said, my voice even. "And we'll start with the $2,300 for Derek's truck that was never actually repaired, right, Derek?" Derek looked up confused. "What truck?" The whole room fell silent. I looked straight at Melissa, watched her try to swallow, watched her glance at everyone as if looking for an escape route. But there was no escape, and no mask thick enough to hide behind anymore. That night, layer after layer of pretense was exposed. Every question, every piece of evidence. Melissa screamed. Violet sobbed. Lila apologized profusely. Derek remained silent as a statue. And me, I just stood there, calm, witnessing their kingdom of lies crumble brick by brick, when Melissa shrieked, "As far as this family is concerned, you're dead to us." I just smiled. "You're right. I am dead, and so is my wallet." I turned and walked out of that house with Emily beside me. This time she didn't look back. We left that house like warriors emerging from a dirty battle, heads held high, hearts heavy, but with absolutely no regrets. In the car, Emily sat silently looking out the window. Not a single tear, no more doubt, only a cold determination growing in her eyes. "All these years," she whispered, "I kept thinking if I was good enough they would change." I squeezed her hand gently. "Some people don't want to change, Emily. They just want others to bow down." The following days, the real storm began. Messages poured in relentlessly. Words of all kinds, pleading, blaming, threatening. Melissa posted cryptic statuses on Facebook, trying to paint me as a ruthless man who was destroying his wife's family for money. Violet texted Emily, long rambling messages recounting her sacrifices as a mother and filial duties. But Emily just read them, then quietly blocked each person. No arguing, no explaining, just decisiveness. However, Melissa refused to stop. On the third day, she showed up at our doorstep, her face smeared with mascara, her clothes disheveled, wailing as if the world had collapsed at her feet. Emily didn't open the door. I simply turned on the video camera to record everything. Melissa pounded on the glass door, screaming, "We're family. You're destroying everything. You're changing Emily. You're ruining our lives." When she tried to push the door open, I had already called the police, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted everything documented accurately, legally, without argument. When the police officer arrived, Melissa was still arguing, tears and snot running down her face. But faced with the security camera footage and the officer's brief warning, "If you return, you will be prosecuted for illegal trespassing," she finally backed down, got into her beat-up car, and sped away. We thought it ended there. But then, Derek, Melissa's husband, called me. His voice trembled, breathless, on the phone. "Ryan, I need to meet you. It's big, really big." At first I was suspicious, but then a part of me understood. Derek was also a victim caught in the middle. We met at a quiet coffee shop outside of town. Derek sat there, his eyes tired and panicked. He slid a thin file across the table to me, statements from his and Melissa's joint account. I skimmed through it and felt a chill run down my spine. 3 credit cards, all maxed out. The spending wasn't for household expenses, but for luxury spas, designer handbags, secret vacations, even Botox. All the emergencies Melissa had cried and begged me to help with didn't exist. They were just a facade for her extravagant pleasures. Derek looked at me, his eyes bloodshot. "I know I was stupid," he whispered, "but I swear, I didn't know it was this bad." I nodded for the first time during this whole ordeal. I felt sympathy for this man, and for everyone she had dragged down with her. Derek swallowed hard, his voice breaking. "I want out. Can you tell me how?" I looked at him, a broken man trying to salvage what was left of his life in the wreckage. And I understood this battle wasn't just mine anymore. That night, Emily and I sat on the porch, the wind blowing gently, cold but refreshing. She rested her head on my shoulder. "Do you think we were too harsh?" she whispered. I squeezed her hand. "No, because we didn't hurt anyone. We just stopped letting them hurt us." A long silence passed. Then Emily chuckled softly. "I've never felt so relieved." I smiled too, a genuine smile, the first in so many years, because I knew we hadn't just escaped a toxic family. We had found ourselves again, and when the truth was exposed, no matter how much the deceitful screamed, they no longer had the power to hurt us. The rumors spread like wildfire. Within a week, everyone in Emily's family knew Derek had moved out. Melissa was crying, and Violet was telling everyone about her ungrateful daughter who had chosen her husband over family. But this time, no one was as easily swayed as before. Derek hadn't remained silent. He shared all the evidence, the statements, the unexplained loans, the luxury items disguised as emergencies. He sent it to family members, even to old friends Melissa had taken advantage of, a direct punch to the years-long charade. Then a family meeting. The second one was held. No one asked us to attend. They knew that if we showed up, any remaining secrets would continue to be brought to light. But Emily decided to go. Not for family, not for reconciliation, but to end everything at its root. We walked into the room this time without applause, without forced smiles, only averted gazes and hushed whispers. Violet stood up first, her voice sharp. "Ryan, Emily, we need to talk like adults. We are family." I crossed my arms, not replying. Melissa stood behind her, her eyes bloodshot, her lips pressed tightly as if holding back a storm of anger. Emily stepped forward, her phone in her hand. "Family." She repeated, her voice so cold it silenced the entire room. She opened Facebook. To everyone's astonishment, she started a live stream. "Here," Emily said, looking directly at the camera. For everyone who has ever been deceived to know the truth." Emily didn't scream, didn't cry. She just read every loan Melissa had asked me for, had asked Emily for, every promise of repayment that never materialized. Every flattering message followed immediately by insults behind our backs. She read excerpts from the chats where Melissa fabricated stories about me controlling the money, then showed her independent transaction history on the screen. She spoke of our hard-earned money, Emily and I working overtime, cutting back on expenses, only to be met with lies and contempt. She mentioned the times Violet had covered up for Melissa, the gatherings where we had to fake smiles while being mocked as outsiders. The whole room was silent, only Emily's steady voice echoing each word like a knife peeling away the last layers of disguise. When she stopped, Melissa was trembling. Violet was sobbing, her head in her hands. No one could justify anything anymore. The truth had flooded the room like midday sun, scorching away all shadows. "You've destroyed this family," Melissa hissed, her voice hoarse. I just smiled silently. "No," Emily replied for me. "You destroyed it a long time ago. We just stopped pretending. No one stopped us as we left. No one pleaded. No one held us back. Only vacant, empty stares like those who had just woken up in the middle of a nightmare of their own making." That night, Emily and I sat on the porch. No lights, no talking, just silently feeling the peace we had reclaimed with all our courage. Some families cannot be saved. Some relationships are worth letting go of. And sometimes, true freedom begins when you know how to say, enough. 3 months after that fateful night, everything had changed. Not with a bang, but with a long silence, the silence of things that had died long ago and had only just been buried. Melissa no longer showed up at our door. The whining messages, the accusations, the final attempts to drag us back into the old vortex gradually thinned out, then disappeared. We heard from those who still kept in contact that Melissa was selling her designer handbags online, and Violet occasionally complained to the neighbors about her ungrateful daughter who had chosen her husband over family. But we no longer cared. No more anger, no more bitterness, only peace. Derek, after the shock of his debt, finally found himself again. He sent me a short message. "Thank you for showing me the light, even when I wasn't ready to see it." We didn't become close friends. Some scars don't need to be reopened. But I was happy for him, happy that he had chosen to stand up instead of continuing to grovel. As for Emily, Emily blossomed like a flower freed from the shade. She pursued dreams that had been imprisoned by guilt, taking extra classes, joining the painting workshops she had always dreamed of, and laughing more, a clear laugh, no longer mixed with sadness. One evening, as we were watching the sunset on our rooftop, Emily took my hand and whispered, "You know what? If all that hadn't happened, I would never have known how strong I could be." I looked at her, a gentle smile on my lips. "Me neither," I replied. "We didn't lose anything, Emily. We only left behind what wasn't worthy of belonging with us." And so, under the fiery sky of the late day, amidst the gentle breeze rustling through the rooftops, I knew we had won. Not by seeking revenge, not by engaging in loud confrontations, but by living better, truly free, no longer carrying any burdens. There are battles where the greatest victory is not defeating the enemy, it's holding on to yourself. Today's story ends here. Sometimes the bravest thing is not fighting others, but daring to say enough to protect yourself. We cannot choose where we are born, but we can choose who deserves to walk alongside us. If you found this story meaningful, please click like to let me know you were here. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next journeys. And if you think this story could empower someone out there, please share this video, because sometimes the right story at the right time can change a life. Thank you for listening. See you in the next story.